What's up? Jeff Lerner here, and today we're talking about how to manage your money like rich people. So don't hate them, learn from them. If you want to be rich, and you know you do, then you have to learn to start thinking and acting like a rich person before the money comes. A lot of people think, oh, when I become rich, then I'll learn how to act rich. I'll learn how to be rich. No. You learn how to do something before you actually achieve it. That's how you achieve it, right? So you want to start thinking like a rich person so you can be one. Okay, so the first thing that you have to understand about wealthy people is that they're aware that they're wealthy, they like being wealthy, they worked hard to be wealthy, and they're interested in protecting, preserving, and growing their wealth. And all of that is a way of saying they think about money. Like, so many people that I work with or that I talk to or that I frankly get comments and feedback from, some of which aren't even that nice, there's like this shame or weird energy around the fact that we want to have money. Nobody wants to be hungry. We want to have food. That's not something we're embarrassed to admit. Yet many of us are embarrassed to admit that we want to have a nice life. We want to give our family a nice life. We want to have a nice house that doesn't have a leaky roof. And frankly, we want to have more space. Like if we have 3 kids and they're all sharing a bedroom, we'd like to have 3 bedrooms. And if we're sharing, a computer and they all have to come home and, one person does their homework from 6 to 7 and then the next kid does their homework from 7 to 8 and 8 to 9 because there's only one computer and they have to share, we'd like to buy 2 more computers so that our kids don't have to share. There's nothing wrong with this. It's not about being greedy. A lot of people have this idea of money that the pie is only this big. And so if I take a bigger slice of the pie, then I'm subtracting from everybody else's slice of the pie. That's how most of us think about money. And so we have this kind of shame or weirdness around wanting more pie. But money expands. Money, literally, if you look up and read, Google money supply and read about the expansion of the money supply, understand that the reason that buying power goes down year after year, the reason that $1 today is only worth maybe 96 cents in a year is because of the dilution of the money supply. Money's expanding. You have to be getting more money all the time, or else you're losing money, you're losing buying power, you're losing value. There are forces at play when it comes to money and value and economics that are so much bigger than any one of us, or any one of our parts in the equation. We don't need to take moral responsibility for our share and how the pie gets divided up. The fact is, if you're a good person, you should have more money, because then you can do more good. Now, if you're a bad person, I certainly hope you don't get more money. Please turn off this video because I don't want to teach you to think like a rich person. If you're a bad person, I want you to at least be a poor bad person so that you lack the resources to go do bad things in the world. But if you're a decent person, you should want to have more money, because then you can have more of an impact. You can help more people. Every dollar is going to land with someone. If it lands with you, it might go to good. If it lands with the next guy, hey, you can't control that, right? So get that dollar. Get it into your personal economy so you can do some good with it. You can bless people with it. You can, feed it back into the economy, right? One of and this isn't a video about economics. This is a video about actually, here's the thing. If we're talking about how to think like a rich person, if we're talking about how to manage money like a rich person, then this is a video about economics. Because rich people think in terms of economics. They think in terms of value exchange. They understand things like money supply. They understand what I mean when I say that for the economy to grow, it's not about how many dollars people have. It's about how many dollars people exchange. There's a principle in economics called velocity of money that actually measures the health of an economy by how fast people are spending and earning. It's measuring cash flow and speed and rate of exchange, right? That's why when the government wants to stimulate an economy, what do? They introduce a spending bill, or they introduce a tax refund, or something that gives people money that burns a hole in their pocket so that they'll spend, because a faster velocity of money is a rising tide that raises all boats in the economy. You don't have to, unless you have a PhD in economics, you don't need to take responsibility for saying, I'm going to factor in all the variables and do the morally righteous thing by not getting more money. Because first of all, there's no equation where it's the morally righteous thing to not get more money, because if you refuse to get more money, you're the only argument against you getting more money, again, is you declaring, I'm a really bad person, and so you do not want to give me more resources because I will do bad with them, which frankly a bad person would never say, because they'd want the resources so they could do their diabolical bidding, right? So I digress. The point is, get over it. If you have shame, if you have weirdness, if you have issues around wanting more money, then that's like, you're like the kid who's like super awkward and embarrassed when they go through puberty to admit that they're like attracted to boys or girls. Like, it was when you were 12, it was okay to feel uncomfortable about admitting that, but like, you're a grown up now. Admit that you're attracted to this or that person, whatever, not judging, and admit that you want more money. And if not, ask why. Like, where did I go wrong? What broke in my childhood that I have so much shame around this, that I'm scared to accept my own desire to expand, to have more impact, to be able, who doesn't want to be able to help more people? Who doesn't want to be able to touch more lives and acquire more resources and have more power, not so that you can abuse it, but so that you don't get abused by it? Anyway, I could digress into politics and social theory and a lot of other stuff. But the point is, this is the stuff wealthy people think about. Like, if you read T. Harv Eker's Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, it says wealthy people or rich people are obsessed with making more money. I think that's one of his wealth files. It's something like that. Whereas, the poor consciousness has all this guilt and shame and weirdness around it. So part one of my video is to hopefully impart to you that money is like really, really darn important. And, I'm a father, I'm a husband, so I have a really deep understanding of why money is so important, because money is my ability to protect my family from a lot of really terrible things out there. And it goes beyond just making sure that they have shoes and making sure that they have food. I mean, I'm talking about stuff like, what if there's a legal problem, right? Like, what if somebody gets in a car accident and gets hurt? What if we get sued? What if, we needed to send one of our kids to private school because of like a drug situation or a bullying situation? What if one of our kids was sick and needed alternative medical treatment that wasn't covered by insurance? There's so many scenarios where you have these anomalous needs for cash flow, things that weren't in the budget, things that weren't in the plan. And frankly, wealthy people come out of those scenarios intact. Poor people come out of those scenarios broken and dependent on whatever government assistance or subsidy or bailout or community assistance or help from their church, or however they can try to fumble through. That's life. We didn't make the rules. I didn't make the rules. Don't shoot the messenger. That's life. Money is security and stability for the people you love. Get crystal clear on that. So once you're clear on that, how do you actually think about money as a person who, let's assume that you're not making over $200,000 a year. If you're making over $200,000 a year, you start to get into, then you're basically in accredited investor territory. You start to get into a territory where we have a different set of options and kind of a different set of guidelines. But if you're under that number, and again, I'm working off of basic United States assumptions. It's different in different countries and probably even different in different parts of the US. I mean, if you're in New York City, like I used to live in Lower Manhattan. $200,000 there was very different than $200,000 where I live now, which is a town in southern Utah with about 200,000 people, right? So I get that there's variation, but if you're under that threshold, let's just use that number for now, then there's a concept called the 50-30-20 rule, or I'd call it a guideline more than a rule, that is really, really a good starting point. Like, if you're not already operating with a pretty deeply held and thoroughly evolved innate sense of finance and money and where your money's going and how your money's budgeted and allocated and how it's growing and how it's functioning as a tool in your life. Like, if you're not there yet, 50-30-20 is a good place to start. And here's what 50-30-20 is. 50-30-20 basically says, okay, first of all, figure out what is your basic after-tax net amount of money that you can work with. So this means the amount of money that isn't going to taxes, and then you can, for a lot of people that means what's your take-home pay minus deductions or withdrawals or withholding, and then you can add back in after tax or tax deductions, right? Like if there's certain things that you're able to deduct, like maybe mortgage interest or certain healthcare costs or certain rebates that you get for kids or dependents, you can add that back into the number, right? And figure out what that number is. and take 50% of it and say, I'm going to cover my needs with 50%. So if let's say your salary is $5,000 a month, but your take home is actually $4,000 a month, then you would want to cover your needs off of $2,000 a month. So that means your house, your utilities, your health care, your basic food. I'm not talking about splurging for fine dining, on a Saturday night and ordering 7 martinis. I'm talking about like making sure that everybody, hits their daily calorie requirement in the family, right? That amount you want to get to 50% of whatever your take-home net income is. So in that scenario, let's say $2,000 a month. Then 30% goes to what we call wants. So a lot of this is about having a discipline between what you need and what you want. And frankly, not to be, all haughty, but if I could characterize American dysfunction and probably Western civilization dysfunction, it would probably be characterized as a confusion or a lack of clarity and precision around differentiating between needs and wants. Like a lot of us think there's things we think we need, we don't need them. Like if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, lip injections is not on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's a want, that's not a need. And if you can fit it into the 30% that goes to wants, that's great. But don't take out of your 50% that's supposed to cover needs for, collagen lip injections or Botox or, hair plugs or what. I'm clearly thinking about how much older I'm getting and all the aging I don't want to do, right? But if I was going to deal with that would need to come out of my 30%, not my 50%. And then 20% is about saving and investing. And really this video is about the 20%. So the overall framework of 50, 30, 20, like you have to get that in place. If you can't do that, then this next piece of the conversation isn't relevant. But if you actually want to think like a rich person, which if you're thinking like a rich person, I think it's reasonable to assume that you actually maybe like want to be a rich person. Like you care and you're not ashamed and you're willing to declare to yourself and even maybe to others, I want to be rich. I want to make a lot of money. That is going to hinge on the 20%. You get 50, 30, 20 in place. You say, I'm living off half my money. 30% is going to wants. I got 20% to get rich with. And what you do with that 20% on the spectrum of saving to investing is going to determine whether or not you are in mere survival mode or comfort mode or actually getting rich mode or like full-on baller mode, right? It's going to be, what did I do with my 20%? Assuming I got my 50, 30, 20 in place. If my 20% always just went back into my company, 401k, then, that means certain things for your life. If your 20% always went into a savings account and accumulated, earned a rate of return at 1% because it was socked in CDs, that means certain things for your future, right? If that 20% goes into, there's different classes of investments. When you move from savings into investing, you're talking about, real estate, you're talking about commodities, you're talking about paper assets, you're talking about businesses, actually investing in a business. And I would argue now that you've got a new class, it's like digital currencies or crypto, blockchain-based currencies, what you do with your money. But basically that 20%, where it goes, is going to determine whether or not you're rich or just comfortable or frankly never even get very far in terms of, even being able to retire comfortably. And that's where, as a rich person, you want to put this structure in, and I say as a rich person, I mean as a becoming rich person, as a person who's, you might be the caterpillar right now, but your butterfly is a rich person and you're building the cocoon and you're metamorphosizing and doing the work of becoming this big, beautiful, rich butterfly, right? The cocoon is 50, 30, 20, in other words. Put that structure in place, 50, 30, 20. But then the beauty of the butterfly is going to come down to what do I do within that 20%? And that's probably content for a separate video. It's actually content for 100 separate videos. There's a lot to say about it. But becoming educated about how wealthy people not only put a structure in place so that they have money to save and invest, but what they actually do, it's going to make all the difference. If you're 40, and I'm 40, the next 10 years of your life are going to make all the difference. If you're 50, the next 10 years of your life are still going to make all the difference. If you're 60, the next 10 years of your life. Let's hope you did some cool things in the last 10 years of life, but you still probably got 10 years to make all the difference. If you're 70, 80, 90, I hope that this video isn't the first time you've heard these concepts and that you're just starting to think this way. But if it is, it's still time to do it. It's like they say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. The second best time to implement 50, 30, 20 in your life is right now, if you didn't do it in the past. And then once you do that, we have a whole other conversation to have about the 20%. So let's stop there. Hopefully 50, 30, 20 gives you a nice foundation for starting to think like a rich person. And then the real magic and the real fun happens within what we do with the 20%. But we'll go there in a separate video. So, hey, if this is the first time you've seen one of my videos, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. If you're like, what is this channel? What is this Jeff guy all about? I'm committed to one thing specifically: helping people have a more awesome life. That is my personal passion. And I have found that through understanding business, understanding finance, becoming more entrepreneurial, becoming more educated, becoming more self-directed and self-motivated, and essentially leveling up on our own personal, professional, and even physical excellence. That's the key to an awesome life. An awesome life isn't something that we're given. It's not something we should be waiting for. It's something we should be going out and creating with our own bare hands and making happen for ourselves. And all of the content, all the videos that I put out are committed to that focus. So if you're into that and you think it sounds cool and you believe as I do that life is meant to be awesome, then subscribe to my channel and I'll put out lots more videos that you're bound to love. Make sure you click the bell next to the subscription button so that you get notified when new videos come out, and I will keep them coming. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. This is Jeff Lerner.